You're focusing on the wrong thing and it's costing your education business $4 to $5 million per year. Most RTOs convert leads to course sales at 16%. I was recently working with a client who had generated 834 leads in a month. 134 of those leads became enrolled students. Now that's a solid 16.06%. Those students, those 134 students, are worth $536,000 in potential revenue. This RTO captured just $270,000. Not because of bad marketing, because 53% of students never completed their course. Let me show you the math that changes everything. Here's what happens in most RTOs. The marketing team generates 834 leads. The sales team converts 134 of those into enrolments. Everyone celebrates the 16% conversion rate. Then those 134 students start their courses, and quietly, without anyone tracking it systematically, 71 of them drop out after completing fewer than 2 units. But here's what just happened. The government funds RTOs based on unit completions. Yes, the rules are different in every state. The funding rules change all the time. But each student who completes represents $4,000 in funding. Each student who drops out after 1 or 2 units represents $3,750 in lost funding. 71 students at $3,750 equals 266 plus change in lost revenue. That's $3.2 million a year just from the students who've already enrolled but didn't complete. Most RTOs don't track this. They track enrolment numbers, they track cancellations, they track non-completions for government reporting, but they optimise for conversion rates. They celebrate lead volume, and they're actually measuring the wrong thing. Let me show you the sensitivity analysis. This RTO currently has 834 leads per month, 16% conversion, 134 enrolments, and 47% completion rate. Monthly revenue, $270,000, annual $3.24 million. Now watch what happens when completion improves but everything else stays the same. If completion goes from 47% to 60%, revenue jumps to $337,500 per month. That's $4.05 million per year, an $810,000 increase without generating an additional single lead. If completion hits 70%, $396,500 monthly, $4.76 million annually, and that's a $1.52 million increase on current performance. If completion reaches 80%, $454,750 a month, $5.46 million annually, and a $2.2 million increase. Now, let me show you the conversion side. So if conversions improve from 16 to 20%, but completion stays at 47%, revenue goes to $335,750 monthly, which is $4.03 million annually, and is a $790,000 increase. So we're talking like a 4% increase in conversions. If conversion hits 25%, that's $418,250 monthly, $5.02 million annually, and a $1.78 million increase. So here's where it gets really interesting. So every 1%, we're talking a tiny 1% increase in completion, is worth an extra $32,000 per year. 1% increase in conversions is actually worth an extra $190,000 per year. But here's the key insight. Completion improvements compound on conversion improvements. If you get better at converting leads, but students still drop out, you're just generating more incomplete enrolments. You're working harder for the same completion revenue. But if you fix completion, every conversion improvement captures full funding value. or more of full funding value. This is why your completion rate should be your primary KPI, not your enrolment numbers. This data comes from a real RTO running at industry standard performance. 16% conversion is good. 47% completion is industry average. That's what RTOs are doing. And 3.24 million in annual revenue is solid revenue. But when we ran the analysis, we found something pretty shocking. Most of the students who were dropping out were completing fewer than 2 units. So that means the RTO is capturing less than 15% of potential government funding per enrollment. Think about that. For every student who enrolls, the RTO receives about $600 in actual funding, but that student represents $4,000 in potential funding if they complete. The RTO is leaving $3,400 per student on the table. If you multiply that by 71 non-completers per month, that's $241,400 monthly and $2.9 million annually. Then add the students who complete some units but not all, another $1 to $2 million in partial completion. That total opportunity cost looks like $4 to $5 million a year. Here's the painful part. The marketing team is doing their job. 834 leads per month is strong volume. The sales team is doing their job. 16% conversion is industry standard. The breakdown happens after enrolment. Students don't understand how to start. The first unit might feel overwhelming. They get stuck on assessments. Nobody follows up. The student goes quiet for a week. They're not hearing from their trainer or anyone on the student services team. And the RTO has no systematic onboarding sequence, no automated engagement, no early warning system when students stall. So if students drift away, the RTO keeps the $250 co-contribution and moves on. Meanwhile, $5 million in potential revenue walks out the door. You don't fix this with better marketing. You fix it with systematic completion optimization. Here are 5 systems this RTO is now implementing in their business. So system 1 is a 14-day success sequence. Every new student gets an automated onboarding sequence designed to get them to complete Unit 1 within 14 days. Day 1's a welcome email with exact steps. Day 3 is an SMS check-in. Hey, have you started Unit 1 yet? It's all very friendly, warm, and there to support the student. Day 7, a video walkthrough of the first assessment. Day 10, a call from the trainer if the unit is not started. Now this RTO also has, students can book in for one-on-one Zoom time or group Zoom time, depending on what their schedule's like. And then day 14, completion, celebration, or intervention. So that would be, we celebrate the student completing their first unit. We might check in and ask them how they went with it. Did they struggle with anything? But they get to celebrate completing that, have that win really early on so that they're more inclined to continue on. You could do this with the second unit as well. So you could break down the unit so that it was easier for them to consume, depending on the students. The goal would be that 80% of students complete the first unit within 14 days. Currently, it's at 30%. System 2 is a progress activation automation system. So if a student goes inactive for 7 days, it triggers an automation, the SMS. We notice you haven't logged in, are you stuck on something? Can we help you with anything? Then an email, and the email specifically is help based on where they're stopped. A trainer alert, follow up if no response in 48 hours, so the trainer knows that they've got to jump on the phone and ring the student. The goal, reduce 7-day inactive rate from 40% to 15%. Then the third system is trainer KPIs linked to completion. So trainers are no longer just measured on unit completions and student outcomes reported. So a monthly dashboard, you could build a monthly dashboard that shows units started, units completed, outcomes reported, funding captured. And I know you can create these reports in a lot of the student management systems, learner management systems like Accelerate for our RTOs in Australia, and there are many other learner management systems, but at least your trainers now have incentive to ensure students complete. You're keeping an eye on the numbers, they're keeping an eye on the numbers. So System 4, funding maximisation dashboard. So a live dashboard visible to the leadership, which shows number of students enrolled, and you could do this per course, units in progress, units completed, outcomes reported, and revenue realised versus potential. So when a student's completed a course, you report on it. I know you've got to wait your 30 days or whatever it is to get paid, but you can start forecasting the revenue with more clarity for the next 30-day payment. This makes the completion gap really visible in real time instead of discovering it months later. System 5 is early completion wins. First unit is redesigned to be completable in 4 to 6 hours instead of 15 to 20 hours. This RTO is actually rebuilding a lot of their units and how they're delivering them. So that might be something that you want to look at as well. But if you can make sure that your student gets an early win, their confidence is building and the momentum starts. And it's not to say that people don't falter along the way, but if we can get them past those first couple of units, most students will complete. Unit 2 may be a normal length, or depending on what the unit is, you might find you need to break that down or have more check-ins with the student. So say these 5 systems cost you $15,000 to implement. I've roughhoused that from the top of my head. So like the automation setup, some trainer training, content redesign, you need your dashboards built. Your expected return on that $15,000 will be $1.5 to $2 million in year 1, just from completion rate improvement alone. Like that's a 100 times ROI. So let's model some realistic outcomes. A conservative scenario, completion rate improves from 47 to say 60% over 6 months. Revenue increases $810,000 annually. Cost to implement was $15,000. The net gain is $795,000. Like that's a massive 5,300% ROI on your $15,000 financial investment. Moderate scenario, completion rates hit 70%, conversion stays at 16%. Revenue increases by 1.52 million annually. It's the same implementation cost, but your net gain's 1.5 million. If we look at an aggressive scenario, completion rate hits 70%, conversion rate improves to 20%, your revenue would increase by 2.6 million annually. Implementation cost, 15,000. The net gain is 2.58 million. 50,000 for a net gain of 2.58 million, worth looking at. This is why I tell RTOs the biggest revenue opportunity isn't always in more leads. Sure, sometimes it is, but for those of you who have got a really good number of leads coming into the business, it's actually keeping the students you already enrolled. 834 leads per month is really expensive to generate. And if you're spending 30 to 50 per lead, some courses are higher. I know depending on where you get your leads from, $25,000 to $50,000 a month in ad spend, but improving your completion rate from 47 to 70% might cost you $15,000, $20,000. It's a one-time thing and it delivers $1.5 million more annually. That's a massive leverage point. And you know what they say, the customers that you have are cheaper to resell to. So looking at the students you've got, if they're having an amazing experience with you and completing, they will purchase more courses from you. So it's cheaper to resell to the customers we've got than it is to attract new ones. So here's some common mistakes when optimizing for completion: blaming the students. They're not motivated, they don't have time, they're not serious about learning. Or maybe your onboarding is confusing and nobody follows up when they get stuck. Adding more content. I know this is a hard one because you want to add more value, you want to do more. I do it in my own business, so I'll put my hand up on this one. More videos, more resources, more materials, and that actually makes it harder to complete, not easier. It can cause overwhelm. The solution is clarity and support, not volume. Mistake number 3, fixing completion without fixing enrolment quality. If you're enrolling the wrong students, no amount of support will get them to complete. So qualification does matter. We look at grading leads when they come in, qualifying them by getting them to jump through a few hoops when they fill out a form. But once they've enrolled, completion systems do matter even more. You've got quality enrolments. Now we need the completion systems in place. Mistake number 4, implementing systems without measuring them. You need the dashboards. You need to see the units started, units completed, and the funding captured in real time. Yes, the money might take a bit of time to come in, but honestly, it will help with forecasting cash flow for your business. You know what they say? What gets measured gets improved. So if you're running an RTO past $2 million in revenue and you're tracking enrolment numbers but not necessarily your completion rates, you're optimizing for the wrong metric. The automation systems that I build for RTOs are designed to maximize enrolments and completions, because completion is where the funding comes from and enrolment is just the start line. Most RTOs do have thousands of dormant students sitting in their database, students who enrolled, started, then stopped. Those represent $3 to $5 million in unrealised funding. All you need is a systemic reactivation and completion support. That's what our database reactivation looks like for RTOs. So when we start working with a client, we're not looking at generating new leads or spending more money. It's reaching out to the thousands of leads they've never contacted again, and looking at working with finishing the students that you already have. If you've got solid lead volume, a functioning team, and completion rates under 60%, honestly, this is your leverage point. Book a discovery call with us. We could analyse, you give us all your data, we can analyse your incoming lead data against your completion data and model your opportunity cost for you. So it wasn't until I went through this exercise for the client that we, were able to actually see, man, there's so much money just walking out the door. So we can have a look at your opportunity cost and we can map out the exact systems that you might need to close the gap. You might have some systems in place. There might be some tweaks that you can make that will absolutely add millions of dollars in revenue. This completion optimization system isn't for everyone. It's really only for RTOs who are ready to optimize for completion, not just enrolments. If you'd like to book a discovery call with us, there will be a button somewhere. Book in with us, we can have a chat,